This time last year, I was struggling to get anywhere near my 10k potential. I wasn't running bad, but there was something missing. Fast forward 12 months and I just ran my fastest 10k ever, and it wasn't a fluke. So let's chat through how I made my biggest yearly improvement to date over 20 years into my running career. Before we get into the changes that I've made, which you can hopefully apply to your running for similar results, I wanted to give a bit of background. So in the spring and summer of 2024, I ran 3 10k races. In May, I ran 30:54, and 1 week later ran 30:35. After that, things were looking up. I got a new coach in June and training was going really well. So I approached a 10k race in July, hoping to break 30 minutes, and ran 30:29. Now, more recently, as I've documented here on my YouTube channel, I've ran 29:36 and 28:57. And at this point, I honestly feel like a completely different athlete. So what has actually changed? Well, there's quite a few things that I would put it down to, but let's start with the biggest and most obvious one, the training. I've put together 2 spreadsheets which show the final 14 weeks into the Wrexham 10k in July 2024 and the Birmingham 10k in June of 2025. I used 14 weeks because I wanted to include the 2024 London Marathon, which happened at the end of the 14th week before Wrexham. And that's probably the first main thing that we have to consider here. At the start of 2024, my main all-consuming goal was the London Marathon. I ran a PB of 2:18 in Valencia 5 months earlier and was sure that I could go a few minutes quicker in London. I was running a lot in the early part of that year. Here's a snapshot of my mileage from January to April of 2024. Long story short, London was a disaster. I was very fit, but I got cramp after 12 miles and ended up running 2:21. And honestly, I came off it physically, but mostly mentally exhausted. That meant that in this 14-week training block, there's a lot of not very much at the start of it, where I was just trying to get my mind back in a place where I was ready to do some actual training. And it wasn't until week 5 of this training block that I actually did something that resembled normal training. Comparing this to the Birmingham block, I again came into this year having raced in Valencia in 2024, this time running a PB of 2:15. So training here probably also started in January. Everything I do is on Strava, but just imagine this spreadsheet extended up by 14 weeks and including more threshold work. All that is to say that I had a lot of momentum on my side this year. I had a lot of momentum in 2024 going into London, but there was a pretty hard stop after the London Marathon and then a build up of momentum again. Whereas this year, since January, has just been build, build, build through that whole time. I've only had 2 days off running this year. Once on the 5th of January when I was ill, and once on the 14th of April when I was also ill. Let me just say that I am the biggest believer in post-marathon rest, but I had 5 days off in this week alone, and that's just not something that I needed this year because I didn't have a marathon that I had to recover from. So are days off, or the lack of them in this case, the reason for my massive improvement? Well, no, but it does come down to the one thing that's always going to help you running without fail, and that is consistency. Now, I am always pretty consistent. I love nothing more than my routine when it comes to running, so there isn't too much to see between these blocks apart from the days off. But if you take one thing from this video, is that you have to be consistent. You have to be able to do the same training every week, every month, every year, and that's in terms of mileage, in terms of sessions. You don't want to do one really hard week or one really hard month and then spend time recovering from it. You want to just do it all the time, repeatedly, and you'll definitely get better. I listed a couple of interesting stats to help compare both blocks. Now, keep in mind that this is only 13 weeks, so any difference in the numbers is going to be quite significant because it's such a short period of time. So let's start with the most obvious one, and that is mileage. In the Wrexham build, over the 13 weeks, I averaged 76.8 miles. and in the Birmingham block, I averaged 98.5 miles, which is a 28% increase or 282 extra miles in 13 weeks. The stat I thought would be next most important was the number of sessions / races. In the Wrexham build, I did 27 sessions, which is 2.1 sessions per week. And this is all that I had ever done when I'd been running my best. However, anyone who's been watching my videos over the past 6 months will know that I started double sessioning in January. That means that I do one session in the morning and one session in the afternoon. In this 13 weeks, I did 37 sessions or races, which is an average of 2.8 sessions per week and 10 more than I did in 2024. Next, I counted the number of steady long runs, which I called anything under 6:30 per mile. Now, this is something that I know works really well for me. So in 2024, I did 3 steady long runs, and in 2025, I did double that amount with 6 steady long runs. And actually, this isn't even the full picture, because if you extend this back to January, the number in the 2024 build stays at 3, but increases to 10 in the 2025 build. Finally, I counted hard miles, which I called any mile under 5:30. In 2024, that was 176 miles, and in 2025, that was 189 miles. I'm actually not sure why this is so close, but this is still a 7% increase, and actually, if it is correct, it's probably due to the fact that these weeks between the 10-mile champs and the 5k champs, I was doing some really hard, really intense sessions on a Friday, which helped me a lot, got me really fit, but doesn't look great when we go to these numbers. Moving away from the pure numbers of training, another reason that I got so much better in the past year is that I got a coach. Outside of my advice to be consistent, my next biggest piece of advice is get a coach. Instead of wasting mental energy thinking about what training you're going to do, or worrying about race strategy or why things might be going wrong, you can just leave it up to someone else, and that's what I've been doing for the past year. If you do decide to get a coach and you would like that coach to be me, I will leave a link to my coaching website in the description of this video. I offer full one-to-one coaching, or if you'd prefer, I can make you a fully personalised plan to guide you towards your next key race and chase a personal best. I don't even need to go back and check when I started working with my coach. I just need to take one look at this training and I know exactly when it was that we started working together. It was right here, and if you look before this week, I'm doing a lot of speed work and dedicating full sessions to running really fast, with the thought process being that I'm not fast, so I should really work on my speed to try and improve it as much as possible, because it's clearly a weakness for me. This sounds great, but I don't think I realised that it wasn't working until my coach moved me to a more endurance focused plan with some speed just sprinkled in there. The thought process now is, and should always have been, that I am an endurance athlete, so I'm going to respond better to endurance training. Yes, I still need to be fast, but if I spend 6 Fridays in a row just running really fast and trying to improve my speed, I might improve at most 2 seconds over the final 200. But if I took those 6 Fridays and focused on my threshold pace may improve by 5 seconds a mile, which is 30 seconds improvement over 10k versus the 2 seconds improvement that I got from doing the flat out 200s or 150s. So the training has just been a lot more endurance focused since June of 2024. We've been doing a lot of threshold work and we haven't deviated from the long-term plan or the long-term goal of just getting as fit as possible. Just for the avoidance of any doubt, although I started working with my coach 6 weeks before the Wrexham 10k, it's not really enough time to see benefits, especially when you're doing long endurance work and building that aerobic base. It takes quite a bit longer than 6 weeks, and it was probably more 10 to 12 weeks before I started to really notice a difference. The next thing that has been a huge shift for me this year is my mindset. Last year, when I stood in the start line, I sort of didn't know what I was going to get. Sometimes it would be good, sometimes it would be fine. I had sort of left my complete disasters in 2023 by that point. However, I just wasn't that consistent. But now I can stand on a start line and with near certainty say that I'm going to have a good day. And this has been the case in every race actually since the Wrexham 10k. And the reason for this is, once again, consistency. I have so much consistency in my training that I just know that it's going to translate into my races. I'm turning up every Tuesday, mostly twice, and every Friday, and I'm having good, strong days. Sometimes I'm a bit tired, but I still run really well and the session still gets done. And there's always a reason for this tiredness. Like, I've done a really hard long run on the Sunday, or my mileage has been a bit higher. So actually when it comes to the races, I don't have those issues and they're just always good. And I'm in a place now that I'm so confident that I know they're always going to be good. And that confidence has been the product of the training that I've done in the past 6 months, in the past year. Finally, I think the last major thing that has changed in this past year has been my nutrition. There's a couple of points to this, and the first is that I drank quite a lot of alcohol in the 13 weeks before Wrexham. The reason for this is because I'd come off the London Marathon and hadn't drank for that entire block and needed to get it out of my system at some point. And I didn't actually get it out of my system until 1 week before Wrexham. Looking at this year though, I'm pretty sure I've only had 3 drinks this entire year. This isn't me saying that you're not allowed to have fun or drink alcohol in moderation, but historically I am not great with moderation, and that really has a knock-on effect on my race results. Also in this past year, I've just been eating a lot more veg. I discovered air fryers in January of this year and just started cutting up loads of veg, throwing it in there and having it with my dinner. Luckily, I always take photos of my dinner so I can show you exactly what I had 4 days before Wrexham and 4 days before Birmingham. There's just so much more veg there, and I just feel so much better when I eat better. I think I'm quite sensitive to like nutrition and diet and stuff because I'm the kind of person who will be excited for a break from training so that you can eat McDonald's and drink Coke, but after 2 days realises that he feels absolutely crap, so stops eating all that stuff. Just as a final note on nutrition, I wanted to say that I have been using a bicarb supplement in the past few months, and although I do feel like it really helps me and makes me feel a lot stronger, this is a 1% gain. This isn't the thing that's going to improve you by 90 seconds in 1 year. All the other stuff is the training, the nutrition, the mindset. The bicarb is great and you should try it, but you have to be doing all the other stuff. And I'm going to give all that other stuff the most credit here. I think that's a pretty full analysis of the differences between Ryan, who ran 30:29, and Ryan, who ran 28:57. There's a lot of things I didn't mention in this video, like strength work and sleep and hill sprints, but that's because they're the things that I never let slip. So there wouldn't be any difference in the comparison between the 2 training blocks. But if you do have any questions about any of those things or anything that I've mentioned in this video, please leave them in the comments. Don't forget to check out my coaching website in the description. And if you enjoyed the video, subscribe and I'll see you next week. Cheers!